Merry Christmas, and welcome to another episode of the Steal a Moment podcast with me, Michael LeBois. Today's guests are Erik Martin, Phil Tacarante, and Carl Straka of the band Mosaic. They are probably one of the favorites I have here in Denver, Colorado, in terms of the bands that I love. They are the intro and outro to this show, Dad Rock and Lifeless. And we got to sit down and talk for about almost 2 hours, actually, on what kind of brought the influence of those songs. Phil and I talk about our mutual meeting of Erik and Nima, who unfortunately couldn't be there, along with Zachary. Hopefully we can have these guys back on to have them talk a little bit more about their aspects of the band, as well as just to shoot the shit. I've had a lot of fun with these guys. We had a great conversation and just really had a good heart-to-heart about everything that's been going on in terms of music and what we can use this time to do and develop. They have a few songs out now for this new cycle that they have started, including Dad Rock and Lifeless. Another one is a fantastic cover of Sunflower. You guys see Miles Morales over my head here. It's from the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse playing. Thank you guys for joining me. If you are watching this on the day of its release, I hope you're having a wonderful Christmas time and you guys are enjoying some time with your family. For those of you who have just finished, I hope you had a very happy Hanukkah as well. And thank you all for taking the time out of your day today to watch. This is my last episode of 2020, as our next episode will be released on New Year's Day 2021. We are hoping to have some amazing things happen here in 2021 for this podcast, including some really, really cool guests and things moving forward from there. We are stuck at 48 subs, guys. So please tell your friends, tell everybody. We want 50 by next episode. At the end of next episode, if I don't have 50, we're going to have some conversations. It's been a pleasure to have been able to work on this podcast through most of the pandemic and really have an opportunity to talk to you guys. And it's been a lot of fun having this come out. I'm recording this actually on Christmas Eve as my clothes are packed up and I'm heading to my mom's. I haven't seen my folks since July, so I'm really, really excited to have some time with them. But I wanted to get an episode out this week just because, you know, some of us have travels today. Some of us are heading to see family in other places maybe, or, you know, maybe you're just chilling by yourself and you want something to do. I'm giving you that option. So there is no YouTuber channel of the week this week, as it is Christmas. I won't be doing one next week either, but it will be back in the second episode of January. With that being said, Mosaic and I would like to steal a moment.
I'll add ambiance.
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
Carl
Awesome.
should be on any second now.
No problem, man. I got time. That's the joy of being the host. I don't have to stress about time frames, and I edit and do all of this by myself. So yeah. I have nobody to answer to. So it's kind of cool. Nice.
That's super.
I like your pad, man.
Thanks,
nice.
Man. This is all my lady. She's the only thing that I contributed is the bass and the picture right here. That's my brother and I when we were little kids. Nice. But the Marvel poster is hers. The Spider-Man poster is hers. The lights and everything. Yeah, she's the fancy one in the group. I give her all the credit.
Fair. Good taste.
Yeah, I'm living downtown now, which is a huge change of pace for me. I've been in the suburbs for the last 20 years. So.
Oh, really? What area in downtown?
We live in Brooks Tower. So
right.
We're right across from Sam's number 3. And
that's like downtown.
Yeah, no, like we're in the heart of downtown. Like the clock tower is right outside of our balcony.
That's cool though.
I used to work at the Denver Performing Arts Center.
Oh yeah,
right?
It's on the other side.
Yeah.
That's legit.
It's an interesting area.
Yeah, big time, especially right now with with how everything's going in with the homelessness situation in Colorado right now. So it's been interesting seeing some of the people. Like, I've been down here since March. We pretty much, like, we started dating in January, and I moved out here essentially in March when we were all working from home, and just decided to see if it would work or not. I still had an apartment just in case things fell apart. But when we were out here in July, we saw a homeless dude like slap a girl in the face, like run up and slap her for no fucking reason other than he was probably on something. I don't know, but he just like ran up and slapped somebody. It was ridiculous, but
Yeah, me and Carl actually have a horror story. One of the times that we were actually like right in that area too. Some homeless dude was just staring at his girlfriend through the car window, just doing his thing, man. And we were like, really? What the fuck?
oh,
And yeah, just made it really awkward and uncomfortable.
oh, I can imagine. That's never fun. Dealing with any of that shit. But you know, it sucks because like I like living down here, but it was definitely a change of pace for me. Like, everything's really close, and we can do a lot of things when we're allowed to do things again. But like at the same time, like I kind of miss being able to, you know, go to the grocery store without worrying if some guy's gonna ask me for change, and if I don't give it to him, he's gonna attack me for not giving him change.
Right. Yeah. No, that's the interesting part about living in downtown, man. Is, you know, it's nice and it's convenient, but you always got to worry about other people, man.
Yeah,
And it's just been getting worse over the last few years.
Yeah, and it's been crazy to see how much it's changed. Like, are you guys all originally from here?
I am.
I grew up in New York
Okay. How long have you been here?
since I was about 10.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'd say, you know, a large portion of my life has been here, yeah.
All right. Where'd you guys grow up? Like, where in Denver? Like the Denver area?
I grew up in Montbello for most of my life, and then I bounced around a little bit. Spent a lot of time in, you know, Westminster, Broomfield, Thornton,
Okay.
and kind of back. But basically, for most of my life, it's been Montbello, which is Denver, essentially.
Yep.
The square that no one likes talking about.
Oh no, I know Montbello well, my friend.
Nice.
Repping that Colfax, man.
Yeah, gotta.
That Colfax.
I
That was where I lived.
Okay. I grew up at Quebec and Colfax.
Yep, that's right about where I
Oh,
grew
okay.
up, too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right by where that water treatment plant is that has a big mound on the back. They turned that into soccer fields when we were little. So that's where I played soccer growing up. Right next to Lowry Air Force Base when it was still slowly being a decommissioned Air Force Base, and the barracks became low income housing. And,
They still have that tower over there on Quebec too.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Denver's changed a lot. Colorado's changed a lot.
Yes, it has.
The landing strip actually used to be over I-70, right? Or like
Yeah.
one of the runways.
Yeah.
That's cool. I saw old pictures of like planes taking off from there. So like people's commute every day when they're driving into work, all they see are these giant planes just going over the highway.
Oh, dude, we lived close enough to Stapleton that we could hear the planes like as they were making their approach to Stapleton. Because like,
Well,
yeah, you could hear that.
I
Shit
hope the
screaming.
housing was cheaper because of that.
It was when we were younger. Yeah, man. That house just sold for like $900K.
Jesus.
geez.
I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me, man. Like,
You got duped.
oh yeah, we got big time duped. But yeah, but I went to high school at I went to Mullen, so I went to a nice little Catholic school.
Yeah.
Yeah, recruited kids from Montbello to come play football for us. So.
That's where all our good players went.
Oh man.
What year? What year did you graduate?
2005.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Man, I feel young. Shit.
Yeah, it happens, man. So are we waiting on the rest of the guys?
Carl's gonna be here.
Carl.
Nima is busy, and Zach's got a baby. And he's
Oh
doing
yeah, I forgot Zach has a
baby
kid now.
daddy thing. So
Oh
I
man.
think just Carl, but Let me call him real quick and see where he's at.
Okay, no worries.
Call.
I'm glad to have you guys here as well.
Happy to be here. Eric, what universe are you in right now? Jesus.
The Gent universe.
Is that what gent looks like if you break it down
Gent
to like a
looks
scientific
like.
particle?
Yeah,
Totally, bro. Gent,
I would wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Let's see. He hung up on me.
He's like, oh shit, I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably trying to get into the Zoom meeting.
That's cool. If I need to, if he needs me to send him the link, let me know. I can shoot it to him, or you can too, Eric.
Okay.
Phil, funny story. So the reason I even know about you guys was through Nima. I met Nima a while back, when he was still in Skylaw, and
Okay.
I actually was going to audition for the vocalist position, and I chickened out.
Dude, I almost chickened out. The story behind that, and I mean, if this is something you want to get into, like when we actually start the interview.
Oh, it's recording. I can edit and make it go anywhere.
So yeah, that's funny because so Erik originally tried out for a band that I was trying to kind of, keep together out of high school. Everybody has their baby when it comes to their band and their music, and this was just my baby. So we were losing members left and right. So it got to a point where we had to audition a new drummer, a new guitarist. That's how I met Erik. He came by and, we talked him through like what we were trying to do and stuff. All in all, like that project didn't really work out. And then I can't remember. I think it might've been like a year later. Erik can probably remember that, but I get a text from him saying, "Hey man, we would really like you to try out for our band." And at the time the lineup was completely different. It wasn't what it is now. And they sent me High Diamonds. And I listened to it. And as soon as I was done listening to it, I was like, fuck that. Not because I hated it, but because I was just so intimidated by the music and like the technicality and like the progressions and stuff. And not like for that song specifically, it was like super weird, like, just structural wise. And I was, more from like a sort of like a new metal type of band. We were trying to go like the Linkin Park type of route, or like, 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin type style. So when they asked me to do that, I was like, find somebody else. I can't do this. And then it was funny because like I wasn't in a band for a very long time, but I was like actively looking, and I came across an ad on Craigslist of all places when I was trying to find a hooker. And
yep, that's how we all do it.
Yeah, the back pages. But no, so I found this ad and I didn't realize that it was the same band, and I think I was communicating with Nima over email, and he was telling me pretty much what they were trying to do, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, send me a track and I'll take a listen and I'll let you guys know if I'm interested. Sends me a track and it's High Diamonds again, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how to tell you this, but your drummer actually tried to make me get me to join like a while ago, and he was like, oh, it was like super awkward. And then I can't remember how much time passed after that, but they finally sent me, Erik reached out, was like, I know we asked you this twice already, but we really want you to at least try out. And I was like, I don't know. And then he sends me Taken from that EP cycle, and I was so fucking blown away. And by then my palette had kind of changed a little bit with like music and like the direction that I wanted to go. So I remember hearing the track. I was working at Frito-Lay at the time. I had just gotten off of like a 12-hour shift, and I hit up my buddy that I was in a band with before, and I was like, hey, do you have time to record like a demo for me real quick? And I wrote the song in like 30 minutes, and then we recorded it in like an hour, and I sent it back to him, and then it was pretty much it from there.
That is awesome. So Nima hits me up and he's like, hey man, I know you're looking for a band, you're a singer. We're looking for a vocalist. Here's the SoundCloud track. Check it out. And it was High Diamonds as well. And I was like, I can maybe write something for this. I'll try. And then like, as I was writing and like working on stuff, I was like, okay, no, I can't do this. No, I can't. And like completely freaked out and panicked my way out of it. And then as I slowly progressed out of it, I was like, fuck. And so let it get out of my mind. Stay in contact with Nemo over the years, and he's like, "Hey man, we're releasing this album. You should check it out." And I listen to it, and I hear Phil, and I'm like, "Okay, I made the right choice. Like, you guys got the right vibe. But like, this is what I was expecting to hear, but I can't do that." So, so that's how I got introduced to you guys, and then I've introduced people to you over the years since 2017, and
that's awesome. We appreciate that. That's amazing.
man.
Yeah,
and,
thank you.
if you guys didn't know, Dad Rock is the intro to this podcast.
That's so sick.
And
Yeah,
Lifeless
you actually told me that.
is the outro.
That is so sick.
You guys round out my podcast, so I appreciate it.
That's
Carl, welcome. You're muted, just so you know. But welcome to the show, my friend.
No, I know. What's up? Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I came so late. It's embarrassing. Not unlike a bass player to be an hour and a half late. So
I'm a bassist too, so I totally understand. They don't call it the idiot stick for nothing, Carl. I promise.
More specifically, I'm a bad bassist.
We hate him. Terrible choice.
Terrible choice. Yeah, trust me. My guitar player in my current project calls me a parasite because this is like our 5th project together, and I always end up being either a bassist or a vocalist in any project he's ever been in, and in this one, I'm both. So.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Well, if anything, that's an Academy Award-winning film, so I'd take that as a compliment.
It's true, man. It's true. Oh God, it's good to have you guys here. Like I said, I've been a big fan for a while. I actually, I don't know. I've been telling my girlfriend about this. Whenever like Lifeless or Dad Rock comes on when we're just fucking around, we sing it and it gets stuck in my head all the time. So that's why I definitely dig it. But the one thing that she caught on to was your cover of Sunflower, because that's the Into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales right here. What kind of stemmed that on? What brought that on? I thought that was kind of a cool vibe, and you guys made it feel really good.
Yeah, I think we always try to add something to our sets that's a little bit different, because we've got 10 tracks that we have 10 total, 5 of which we released and another 5 on the way. Don't quote me on that. And then we have this EP, so we've been kind of running these songs through the cycle, just performing live for a while. So we always try to add something or like rearrange the set in a way where it's interesting. Being a local band in Denver, you always want to try to do something that hasn't been done before, especially if you have returning fans or you're introducing your music to new people. I think Sunflower was just one of those songs that we just decided to cover live, and then we just kind of decided after the fact to just do like a recorded studio version of it. So
it went over really well. We kind of premiered that one at our show just this like before everything went to shit and the whole world fell apart at that show at the summit with Polyphia and Issues, and a lot of people really dug it, and then we're like, well, we should just record it because we got pretty good response from it, and we're like, this is sick, we like that. It is a little bit poppier, but especially for that show, it kind of makes sense because if you're familiar with Issues, they definitely have a poppier edge to them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we decided to go that route. But thanks for liking it.
Yeah, definitely. And that show, actually, I was sad I couldn't make because I was going to be there. But something came up and I was pissed because that's like 3 bands that I love. I actually just recently got introduced to Polyphia, and I've been an Issues fan for a long time. So. They fucking rule. I think I've only been able to make one show, and that was the Dayshell show, which kind of
Marquee.
Yeah, the Marquee, which kind of introduced me to how interesting like you guys can fill a full small stage like that and kind of make everything work. I'll go this way with Carl. How does it feel like playing in a smaller venue like that and then going somewhere like Summit or another bigger stage that you guys can kind of fill that space a little bit more? How does it feel playing in a space like that for you?
Sure. I mean, honestly, I've kind of grown up playing smaller stages, so I can't make that comparison very well because I haven't played very large stages. The largest one I played is pretty much Summit, and I think that was for the issue. It's if anything, it's like you acclimate to the challenges, like just especially being close to Zach and not whacking him in the head with the head of my base. That's like the biggest concern usually for most shows. But it's just the hardest thing I think is just getting a good mix, because the monitor split up, and I think that's always like a challenge for any band playing live, especially if you have really rhythmically inclined music. It's so important to have good monitoring, and that's always a challenge live. So, splitting that up between the band members and making sure everyone's happy with their mix, because I always have a completely unique mix from almost everyone in the band. So, especially singing some backup harmonies every other show, it's always important. So. It's just, I don't know. It's tough to play on a small stage. It is. And, when you get a big stage, it's just great because you can just run all over the place. I'm sure, at least. I haven't played a big one, but yeah, I can imagine it'd be fantastic to play a big stage. But yeah, tough. It's tough playing small ones. So.
Yeah, I kind of prefer the small ones sometimes. Erik, I don't really know what your drum setup is like, but I used to have a drummer who used to play double kick everywhere. It didn't matter if we were playing at Herman's Hideaway or at, the Bluebird. So when I was singing, I had a double kick up my ass for like half a show, every show. So it was always nice to never have to worry about being off time because I had a click up my butt the entire show.
Yeah. No, I think you're definitely right. So like for that Polyphia and Issue show, right? Like we're sitting there, they're like, get there like 6 hours early, get ready, like you guys better be ready. And we're sitting there and sound checking. And then they're like, all right, well, you guys don't get a sound check, you don't get a load in, you guys just have to get all your shit on stage like 5 minutes before you go on. Right? It's like, okay. And then like having a small drum set is like for more important because it's like, all right, get all your shit up there. You have about I was literally like square, like maybe a foot off of like falling off the stage, right? It was like no room at all. So if I had some huge drum set, it would just like probably pieces would just start like falling off the stage. Like I don't know. So for me, a long time ago, I've realized like playing live and space wise, it's kind of a better idea to keep it small. And I was really influenced by Matt Halpern from Periphery. He plays a very minimal set. As the years gone by and he has roadies, people actually setting his shit up, now he's like, okay, yeah, tons of shit. But when he actually was the guy, they were playing small stages, they were backlining like massive amounts of shit. He had snare, low tom, like 2 or 3 cymbals, that's it. It's minimal as could be. And I think that there's something to be said for that, especially as you're starting to come up in the scene,
Yeah, I can definitely say from experience, anything you can throw and go generally will make it good if you're an up-and-coming project or a project that isn't quite mid-level. Like, there's no reason a band who is going to be second on the set list every night is going to need a 8x10 bass rack. Like,
yeah.
Like I play a 2x10 right now. That's all I need. That gets me plenty of sound to hear myself on stage, and then I plug in and the audience can hear me through the DI. You don't need any more than that on stage.
That's all you should ever need. Yeah, because if you have a bigger venue, they should have a PA system, and going through the PA system is always going to be better. So.
Yep. And it makes your monitor mix better because you're not bouncing back off both sides and you're not blowing yourself away.
Yeah, it's not dependent on stage volume because, stage volume is so different than, your monitor mix. So, absolutely.
Definitely. And Phil, you can probably attest to this. As a vocalist, sometimes monitor mix is the only thing that saves you if you can barely hear yourself. You got to get yourself a little extra pickup from the front, right?
Well, luckily, these last, maybe 3 shows I've had in-ears, and that's helped a ton, especially, and it actually kind of improved the way that I sing on stage, because usually without in-ears you're relying solely on your monitor, but if somebody has too much of like if Carl has too much bass on his side, or if I don't, speak up and say, hey, I need a little bit more drum. You know, it's harder to hear the tempo and it's harder to hear yourself opposed to everybody else that's playing on stage. So you're kind of compensating, you know, like, I don't know if it's just me, but as a vocalist, I always try to compensate whenever I'm having a hard time hearing myself, by, you know, either trying to be a little bit louder or project a little bit more. And sometimes that could be a bad thing because you sound quiet on stage, but what the crowd is hearing is completely different, you know, so you could be belting and they're just hearing you kind of strain, you know, more than what you would actually do if you could actually hear yourself, you know, singing.
Definitely.
So having in-ear monitors is a lifesaver.
Oh, dude, I totally miss having in-ears in a band. You guys play to a click as well, right? Yeah, I miss that as well, playing live. I was in a band for a while called Red Tide Rising. And
I've heard of you guys. Nemo talked a lot about you guys.
Yeah, dude, I was their bassist for like 4.5 years. Did 2 national tours, one with Seven Dust, one with Drowning Pool.
That's amazing.
Fuck yeah. Were you guys on Octane?
Oh, that's awesome.
I think they might have played a couple tracks on Octane. I don't know. When I was there, we released one EP when I was in the band. And we toured that one with Seven Dust when we were on the Kill the Flaw tour with them. Which was
pretty sure I've heard you guys on the radio before.
Yeah, that was an amicable breakup, which I was happy about. Like I just couldn't do it anymore, unfortunately. I loved it, but like it was one of those things where like you just got to make the choices that benefit your life sometimes. And I was completely burnt out. Like I hated music. I quit playing bass. I quit singing for like 2.5 years.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
How was touring with Seven Dust? How was that?
That was awesome. So it was cool because like, even though they're this big band, they still like, you know, would hang out in the venue before shows. And we actually got to go to Canada with them and play their first time in Canada in 10 years. And so before crossing the border, we went to this bar and it was one of their road hands, my guitar player, Andrew, and then Morgan Rose. So I'm just sitting in a bar with Morgan Rose, drinking 7 and 7s, playing Keno, talking about life on the road and like what's been going on, you know, and how he feels about this tour so far. And, you know, it was just crazy to just sit there and talk to a guy that I've literally been like mocking vocals of for the last 10 years of my life.
Yeah. That's
yeah, but like on the road with them, you learned a lot. We learned a lot about just being on time, being professional, respecting the venue, no matter how much they disrespect you. Like we had an issue in Calgary where because of rain, we got there like an hour after our load-in time. And they were like, well, we can't clear the stage for you. Like, well, we're the other band on this tour, so you need to make some room for us. And, you know, some venues get mad at you for stupid things that are beyond your control, but you can't do anything about it. But the nice part about both of those tours was I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about the industry and how it works on that side of things. Like, you know, most touring bands don't get a say on if there's going to be a local on the show. The venue does, because they aren't sure if you're going to sell enough tickets. Or they, you know, they'll throw on 2 locals. It's crazy how that happens sometimes. But it's always fun to like get to experience those things. We actually were in the tour bus with Drowning Pool. So like we spent every day with them because we were also the crew on that tour. So we unloaded the trailer every day at 10 o'clock, noon on some occasions. We were the last ones on the bus at 2-3 in the morning after the trailer had been packed. You learn a lot.
That's
about
so cool.
Yeah, you learn a lot about yourself, how little sleep you can perform on. It's crazy. So Erik, you do a lot of do you do most of the video work for you guys? Like, do you shoot the majority of the videos that you guys have done?
Yes and no. I don't want to take credit for everything. I think I've always kind of done live performances and like live music. Like I always like tend to be that guy. Shooting live concerts is very, very different from shooting music videos. There's not a lot that goes into shooting live concerts. It's more technical than it is artistic. And I think that was kind of always why I was hesitant to step into that role as our main videographer. We did so usually like if we play a live show, like for example, we played a show about 2 years ago at Walnut Room, and when I'm doing a live show, like there's just so much going on that between the tickets square up and the loading and just the door, just everything, right? Like loading everything up. So I can't take on that. So we had Lindsay from the anchor.
Yep.
So she does video work too, and she's a great videographer as well. So she did our Dad Rock video, and then usually the ones that are more like scripted and it's not so chaotic, and I can actually be behind the camera. I have started getting into that role, and I really love it, and it's something that I truly enjoy. It's like another really cool art form for me. So I love that these guys have given me kind of the given the reins. It's a lot to entrust in someone, like we did with Lifeless. Like we paid $500 for this lighting guy, and that was my first music video ever, and I'm sitting here like, I hope I do a good job or else $500 is down the drain, right? So but it turned out pretty good, and everyone was pretty happy with it. So yeah, and off this new cycle, we went to a really cool castle, and we shot there for a song, and then we also just did something kind of like locally and stuff. So yeah, I love it. I love it. It's up there with drumming for me, kind of hand in hand.
Nice. That's awesome, man. So tell me a little bit, can you tell me anything about this next cycle? Like, what are you guys expecting to see, and what's coming up? I'm excited now. I didn't know you guys had new stuff coming. Now I'm like, I'm a little uncomfortable in my pants.
Phil, Carl, one of you guys talk
Yeah,
to
go for it.
Tell them, let them know.
So this is pretty much, we actually just finished recording everything that we've had for I think the past 2.5 years. Just with playing shows, shooting music videos and stuff like that, and just given the situation in the world right now with COVID, a lot of things kind of put, finishing these last in total 10 songs and getting them out there, for people to listen to it. So we just closed the book on that. So we have 4 new songs that we haven't put out yet, along with another little treat, another remix of a song that I won't mention yet.
Sweet.
Yeah. So they kind of go with everything that we've released so far, but each song is very different. You're going to hear kind of like a different side of us on a few of the tracks, but you're going to hear a lot of the same, sort of from this era and from this like cycle of music that we've been putting out over the last 2 years. So a lot of exciting stuff coming this way.
Hell yeah, man. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Do you guys record individually? It looks like, Carl, you got your own setup there, and then Erik, you got your setup at your place. I know from the videos I've seen, like your your birthday drum off and everything.
Yeah.
Are you guys recording in different spaces and then compiling together?
Not so much, no. We actually, Nima is like our head engineer, so to speak. So he does all the recording, tracking, and mixing essentially too. We typically get our mixing and mastering done by Simon Grove. I think he's the performing bassist for Intervals and Pliny and a few groups like that. I think he lives in Australia, right?
Yep.
Yeah, some of the payments I've sent are to Australia. But anyways, but Nima does all the tracking for us. And the weird thing too is that we haven't recorded in a very long time. So part of the 4 to 5 songs that we're looking to release at this upcoming release, they're all from 10 or so songs that we actually wrote all in one, stretch of time, a couple months long, where we just went on a hiatus after doing the EP and like solidifying Phil into the group. And it was like, all right, we need to come up with some new music now. So we wrote like 10, 11 songs, went to our studio that we had at Walnut Room and just sat there and recorded all 10 songs, performed them live, and then just started, actually recording them professionally and producing them with Nima. And, we kind of decided at that point, mid 2018, we decided that it was better to release singles than it was to release an album, and kind of just, a little bit of a flash in the pan for albums, especially with our music, with a niche audience like we have. And, a slightly, I don't know, more modern rock than a more accessible alternative rock. So, it was better to release singles. So we did that for the first half of the album. Then it was like, all right, well, we just want to get the rest of this music out, because at that point it was 6-7 months after we had written this material. And we had all grown. I think that's a big, that's an important part of being a musician, as a career, is growing as a musician, learning new things, discovering new music. And we all did that. And it was like, we were all new musicians and had music that we were waiting to write, but we were just waiting to release this stuff. So now that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to push the rest of this huge run of writing music out so we can just get to the new stuff. At least that's what we've been discussing a lot recently, is like, let's just get this old stuff out. It's old Mosaic. We need to get to the new Mosaic. So it's kind of what we're going for. Not that we're changing genres or anything, but it's important to us to kind of get this older stuff out, so we can define a newer sound. Because I think that's important in a lot of artists' development, is hearing that change in their musicianship through their music.
Definitely. And I can attest to that as well. This current project, Gunpowder Empire, like, it's arguably the best stuff we've ever written. And it's definitely changed from what I've written in the past and the things that we've developed from before. We started as an acoustic project and released an acoustic EP in February of 2019, and kind of just like decided based on that it was time to get a drummer and another guitarist involved and see what happens from there. And it created this really cool, different sound that we had never had before. And we released a song back in October and released the video last week for a song called Through Bloodshot Eyes. We shot it with Travis Owen of A Verse to the End and Project Vela. And then Scott Ewell did all of the lighting for us. We actually shot all the band performance shots are in a garage at Travis's house. And we just tarped off everything, and Scott's lights made it look like this darkened abyss, which I thought was really cool. And then obviously all of the personal shots of me are just shot in areas of downtown where I live. So it was really easy to just we threw it together in 3 days, and then Travis edited everything and made it fucking awesome. And I'm super proud of how it turned out. So
it was really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And it's fun because that's the thing, exactly what you're saying, Carl, is we grow as musicians, and that's the job we should do. And that's why I think bands, when they change sounds for different albums, they grow. If a band's been around for 25 years, you don't expect every album to sound the same unless you're Slayer.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true. Yeah.
I think the quality has changed over time, but definitely not the music.
No, exactly. To kind of steer away from music for a little bit, this is an open-ended podcast. So what do you guys do outside of your creative sides? Are any of you gamers? Are any of you guys into sports? What else do you guys do besides the music thing?
Phil's got some interesting things. They should be you first.
Oh, God. So I've recently got sucked into the world of TikTok.
Oh, shit.
And, yeah. So I have a lot of interests outside of music, and a lot of that just kind of involves old school horror movies. I also do haunt acting when I'm not, doing music and stuff like that for the month of October. So I kind of, especially during this whole COVID thing, I've kind of found a way to keep myself creatively busy, by just making content. And it's mainly just, horror related stuff. And I have my whole costume and stuff like that I do. And, that's kind of what I do, in my spare time. Recently things have been picking up a little bit more with work and stuff. So I haven't really been able to do a whole lot of that, but outside of that, I just like coming home, watching TV and drinking beer.
There you go.
So I keep it simple.
He's pretty big on it too. I think you have 50,000 followers or something.
No, not nearly. I got 28,000.
Oh, really? I thought it was 50.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Being TikTok famous is like being famous on Facebook for posting memes.
Yeah, because I feel like everybody has at least you know, a couple thousand followers at some point because there's so many fucking people on it.
It's such an easy platform to just kind of, you know, gain followers, and, you know, you hit a certain level, and then, you know, after a while, it's just like anything else, man. You kind of hit a brick wall, and you're like, okay, well, that was fun while it lasted. So, I mean, but it is fun. It's a different way to express yourself artistically. I'm not like one of those people that does like the crazy goofy dances and stuff like that, but
you should. I would want to see you do the whatever the pop and wiggle one is. Shit. What about you, Carl? What do you do outside of your music life?
Just work pretty much. I used to be an AV technician for for a large global AV company in Denver that just does like, you know, hotel sponsored events. So just would set up soundboards and lighting equipment and video equipment for for shows and hotels and corporate events, stuff like that, corporate AV essentially. But after COVID, that obviously had shut down pretty quickly. So I was furloughed. I'm technically still furloughed. Haven't gotten that pink slip in the mail yet. So holding on to that young that health insurance. But aside from that, now I've gotten a couple. I've just kind of bounced between a few kind of independent contracting jobs. I'm doing class monitoring for CU Boulder's law school. So I'm basically just helping them monitor their online classes because everything has gone to Zoom and they're doing all their classes online. So I'm basically doing that now. But aside from that, I like music of all genres. I record some acoustic stuff just for fun for myself. That I've always it's always been important to me. So I do that on the side and release things when I have the time to do them. But aside from that, I just bought a house in January, so just keeping up with my house and things like that. So yeah, pretty simple, pretty easy.
So proud of you.
Yeah, congrats, man. That's huge.
My baby.
He's growing through it all so fast. I don't know how you do it, man.
I know. I got to see the back of my head, bro. There's no hair there. It's happening fast. So, yeah.
All right. And...
You'll always have your pubes. Don't worry.
Yes. Yeah. Pube transplant. That'll be a thing in the future, I'm sure.
Yes, it will. Really, it's going to be a little more coarse in the back of your head.
Yeah. Like a Brillo pad.
So stinky, perhaps?
little stinky. Yeah.
Very simple.
What about you, Eric? What do you do outside of your music love and video stuff? Just video stuff?
I mean, yeah, video stuff. I'm a movie file, so I always watch movies. I've probably watched 700 movies since COVID hit. I like everything. I love cinematography, like The Joker. I just watched The Joker. It was so like storyline aside, I know some people had made him squeamish and stuff, but just the cinematography was just incredible.
Gorgeous.
You know? And just that type of stuff, really, I'm interested in that. I run my own music school, so I teach drums and piano. I try to get Carl some students. It's hard out there right now for students. So, before COVID hit, I had over 100 music students. And
shit.
We played, I would do shows around Denver, and we did a show at the Soil Dove, and it's really cool. But hopefully it'll come back. But it's been a blessing in disguise because there's been a lot of great time to spend more time on music, spend more time with these guys, spend more time just practicing other crafts like video. I just bought a ridiculously expensive camera.
I saw.
So much money. I'm like, oh my God. But I still, it's good and it's bad. I think COVID has brought a lot of great, times of reflection, give you more time to slow down and try things that you haven't done before. But it's also tough because obviously.
Yeah. So I was a terrible millennial and didn't watch any of the shows that every other millennial watched, like Parks and Rec, Community, The Office. Yeah. So my girlfriend, who is a massive cinephile as well, Eric, got me into all of them in a span of COVID. So I'm all caught up on everything I missed in high school and college. So I'm safe now.
What's your favorite?
Oh man, Community probably.
That's a good.
Community is great.
I would say just the vibe of that show fits me better than anybody else. And I catch myself going, cool all the time. Yeah, and that's definitely up there. I got back into reading again. I'm an English major. I was going to be a high school English teacher, and then they have this silly test you have to take to get your license, and I failed it twice. So to tell you that that's how you don't become a teacher is the best way ever. Spend $300 on 2 tests, miss it by 1 question each time, and you realize maybe I shouldn't be a teacher.
No way, man, that's messed up.
Yeah, that's crazy. But so I ended up going to Colorado Media School and studied television and radio production and on-air broadcasting. So I got a job and I work in traffic now. So I get to work from home. I put the commercials on TV. I'm so exciting. I know, it's great. But that's my job. So I schedule for all of Xfinity, all of certain breaks for DirecTV and Dish Network every day. That's what I do. Yeah. So I make sure that Nissan commercial gets in right in the third quarter of the Monday Night Football game on ESPN. It's crazy, but it's fun. And, I had job security, so I'm still working, which is really fortunate. I'm actually in my workspace right now. But I also got into broadcasting high school sports. So I do play-by-play for basketball, volleyball, soccer, and football when we have them, which is awesome. But I'm also an avid gamer, like hardcore gamer. And so I got to catch up on my entire backlog and start playing new stuff, which has been fun. So that's
Nemo would nerd out super hard with you if he was here. He would tell you how The Witcher 3, every other game you should burn in a fire. The Witcher 3 is God.
I put 290 hours into Witcher 3 already, so I'm with him. I actually just got the Witcher books for my birthday from my girlfriend. Cool. So I started reading those, and they're fucking cool. They're crazy.
Yeah. What's your favorite game that you've played so far?
So recently? Man, that's a great question. It's probably down to Ghosts of Tsushima, which ended up being the game of the year at the Game Awards last night.
Is that an indie game? I've never heard of that game.
No, it's Sucker Punch, and it's a Sony exclusive.
Oh.
So it's fantastic. I thought it was really, really good. And the other one is Miles Morales, the new Spider-Man game.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we lost Carl. Oh, Carl, where'd you go?
I'm sure he'll be back.
No.
But I just actually I pretty much speed ran that one right before Thanksgiving, and I beat it in like 2 days.
That's sweet.
But I also played it for like nonstop. I got it on my birthday, and my girlfriend's awesome. She's like, whatever you want to do on your birthday, you get to do it. And I was like, I'm playing Spider-Man all day.
Nice.
You can't stop me.
Just bring me snacks.
Mountain Dew, please.
Code Red.
Yeah. And so did all that. And that's what I've been doing with my time. But I've also been, so with this podcast, it's gotten me better with audio editing and video editing. I've become a little bit more proficient with Premiere and starting to learn After Effects. And, it took this time to really build, like, I decided to do this podcast. Like, I've been wanting to do this thing for 4 years.
Wow.
And I got a hair up my butt in July and was like, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to start contacting people I know and people I don't know. And if they say no, it's fine. Like my first guest was Lindsay Manfredi of Cold, the bassist from Cold.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I've had like Ben Roy from the Grolics and Those Who Can't. He was a guest. I've had Ryan Harris of the Denver Broncos.
That's awesome.
I have you guys now, which is even better than all of them.
Thanks, man.
Come on now.
I'm being serious. Like, I legitimately was telling somebody the other day, I was like, if I can get the band that everybody asks me about, like I had Tyler Stanfield. I don't know if you know Tyler.
That sounds familiar.
He plays with Scott Ewell and Davey Bartlett and all those guys, Jace Hill. He was on and he was like, hey man, I watched your podcast. Who's that intro band that you have? So I get to like, and then like my girlfriend's mom watches and she was like, hey, who's the band that does the songs for you? And I'm like, I gotta have these guys on like to talk about these finally. So it's just like, and seeing you guys live, I was like, oh, I'm hooked. And Nima's such a good dude. Like,
Yeah.
and getting to know you guys as well now is even better. Erik and I have exchanged conversations here and there over the last little bit. And Phil, we've been friends on Facebook for probably a year.
Yeah. I see your name pop up all the time, and like I was always trying to figure out, is it Leboy? Is it Leboy? Lebois?
Lebois. It's the
Lebois.
French way.
Yeah, man.
How do you say your last name?
We're extremely happy to be here, man, and welcome back, Carl. Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're super grateful for that.
Definitely, man. How do you say your last name, Phil?
Takarante.
Takarante. I've butchered it every time I've said it on the episode, so I apologize. And now that I know it, it's not going to happen again.
You should hear like automated voices try to say my name. I've had people hang up on me. Like, automated lines. They're like, "This message is for Phillip."
Click.
And then click. Yeah.
It's like that.
I've spelled his last name wrong when doing our music distribution, so I also fucked up his last name on his PRO. So
I haven't seen any money from anything
right.
we've done.
Phillip Tacaronte will get a check. $.
There's some guy out there that actually has like their name spelled that way who's just getting all my money.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Damn you, Carl.
It's like, I don't know why, but I get like $500 every year.
Like I'm a bass player.
Yeah. It's like that Mike Birbiglia joke when he's like, "Can I please speak to Michael?" Oh no. Birbigaboo.
Totally.
Yeah, that's how I know it's a scammer if they call me LeBois or LeBose. There's an I in there, man. Like, come on.
Well, with today's youth and just like with the way people are now, it's very hard to meet somebody that can just like, especially if you have a unique last name, to just like nail that shit right off the bat.
Well, and with the way parents spell things now.
True.
Like,
they definitely don't help.
That makes it worse. Like Caitlin's spelled with like 3 C's and 2 Y's.
Yeah, that's true.
Nah, I'm good. So my 2 songs that I use for the show, I want to know a little bit more about them because they're my jams. I listen to them a lot. They're in my car all the time. I tell Siri to play Dad Rock when I'm pulling out of the garage. They know who I am now. Tell me a little bit about those songs, like what the meaning kind of is behind them and where the feel came from those, because they definitely have this like really, I love the feel of both of those tracks.
It's funny that you have those 2 songs as your intro and outro, because those songs are very unique as far as like the writing process, or the kind of the way that those songs kind of came to be. So we usually, whenever we're writing stuff, we're always trying to like rehash ideas that we have, basically, from a different time period. A lot of what we've released over these last, couple years has been like things that have been brought by Zach or Carl or Nima or whoever. They just kind of spearheaded an idea. Dad Rock and Lifeless were both kind of just ideas. Like we were literally just jamming at practice. I remember for Dad Rock, I think Nima was playing that riff, and I was like, oh, we need to keep that. That sounds fucking amazing. And I think he was just kind of doing it as a joke, and that's how the name kind of came about. He was like, it sounds like super Dad Rock, and I'm like, we need to keep that. So I was very adamant on keeping it because that's kind of it has that vibe that of a lot of the music that I grew up listening to, just like from high school and stuff. It was still like a heavy hitter, but it still has like that genty sort of feel to it. It's very modern day, but kind of reminds you of that type of music. Lyrically, that was a little bit more challenging. I think because it's such a heavier song than what we normally put out, I wanted the message to be sort of, kind of heavy too. So for me, that song was more so about people who over-glorify themselves, that have this ego, and they get to this point in their life where they kind of use that as kind of a gateway or like a pedestal, kind of like I deserve this kind of thing, or like I feel like I'm entitled to this. And I'm sure we've all met like somebody, throughout our life that just felt extremely entitled, and you can relate that to a lot of stuff, man. You can relate that to politics. You can relate it to, religious figures and just like public figures and celebrities. And after a while, man, people forget that they're human. They forget that they are just like anybody else, but they're just, their face is plastered on the side of a bus. But just as quickly as you get there is just, it's just as quick as people forget you and kind of bury you under that, and you just become another person that was someone at some point, measured by fame or, title or whatever that is. So for me, that was kind of what dad rock was lyrically. But of course, anybody can relate that to anything in their life if they want. We always try to kind of keep it open-minded, for people who, kind of hear the song, and if they don't really know what it's about, they can always kind of put it in a different perspective, which I always love hearing when people say, well, this song, I relate to it because of this. And it's completely off the grid of what I originally, wrote for it lyrically and the content around it. So that's always cool.
I think that's the best part. I love hearing from fans, and not that we've had like influx of them, but yeah, I think it's amazing to hear from people that are so inspired, because coming from someone that grew up in like the intro Facebook era, when like there's Facebook profiles, and I would like go on there and mess with like, oh my god, this album from Rise Against changed my life forever. And like that's thinking that like someone from like Tim McGraw is gonna like message me back from the band like, yo, that's why I wrote it for you, bro. And so, I think that that's cool, and I love hearing from fans, and I love that we get the chance to like actually do that now. And I think that's great about being a fan of a niche genre like that. You can be in the scene easily if you just like the music and you can support those bands. And I think that's what's so great about all of our fans. They're so freaking supportive, and you just all over the world. So
yeah, I can definitely, with dad rock, dude, like 100% agree. Like I felt directly hit by that one, because I went through that phase where like I thought my shit didn't stink. I thought I was the best vocalist in the world. Like I was better than anybody in Denver. I had no idea why we weren't going anywhere. What the hell's going on? And then I realized like I'm just another guy in a town. Like, there's a lot of that though. And like you get that head and you think about yourself as like the best. And then you realize like, no, there's always room to grow. There's always room to improve. That's how I always took it.
Well, and that could be, having that mind frame could be healthy, but, in moderation.
Right.
It's good to be confident. It's good to have like that faith in yourself. And instead of like, maybe not asking those questions, like, why haven't we made it yet? Figure out like what you can do to make it, because you're able, and you're going to get there at some point. But a lot of that comes with work. You don't ever stop working. You don't ever stop grinding for it. You don't think just because you did something amazing once that's it. That's going to get you, you're going to just take off from that platform. You always have to consistently be working. And just like with Erik, man, like everybody in this band works their ass off so much. And there's, and I'll get a little bit emotional, and I'll say this. There are times where I feel like I still am constantly earning my place in this band, because I look up to them and see how hard they work. And we wouldn't be where we're at without all five of us just consistently, contributing and everything that we've done so far. Erik is always like sending out emails to people, setting up shows. Carl and Zach, they're always like really on it as far as like merch, and everybody stays busy. And that's the good thing. It should never feel like you get to this point and then that's just it. You have to always constantly be working on yourself. You never put your best work out. Your best work is yet to come.
Hell yeah, totally agree. And I can attest to that as well with this project. Like we thought we hit a wall, and we were like, well, what are we supposed to do now? Like with COVID and everything. But what it actually did was it helped us open our eyes to other options, other ideas. So we're releasing a cover a month. We're gonna release a cover a month on YouTube and try and see what we can generate from that, and get the best we can get out there, and enjoy the ability to still create and still write together as best we can from a distance right now. And then when we can actually get back together in a room and start busting ass, like that's it.
That's awesome, man. And look at bands like Bring Me the Horizon, man. They were able to, via, Skype and Zoom, and like use all of this, sort of new age technology to be able to write, you know, remotely. Like everybody was able to record their own parts and send it, to a dude, and he was able to put it together, and they just released an EP out of
That
this.
album slaps.
Yeah, it's so fucking good, man.
Good. Really good. Really
It
good.
is so good. And they did that whole thing during COVID, man, and literally with very, very minimal contact, if not at all,
Yeah,
So it's not
definitely.
impossible to do that, and it's important to just keep working, especially in times like this when you have all this free time, and just, keep yourself busy and keep working towards your goal.
Yeah.
I think a lot of musicians are going to appreciate that once things start getting back to normal.
Yeah,
You know?
every musician I've talked to, none of them have been like, no, we just been kind of sitting on our asses doing nothing. Most of them are like, we took this time to try something different. One of the bands I talked to is a pop punk band out of Cleveland, Ohio called Dead Bundy. And they just wrote a song called Your Mom Has an OnlyFans. And
I saw it. I'm subscribed.
yeah. And they've been cranking out music and videos, and like they all live pretty much together, so they've been able to be together. But like it's amazing to see, bands who've been like, well, we haven't been able to get together, but we've taken this time to strengthen our drum abilities, work on different styles of guitar, try a different vocal technique. Everybody's doing something. And I think that's the most important part as a creative right now. And that's how I've stayed healthy through all of this. Like, yeah. I have the support of an amazing girlfriend. She lets me sit here for 2 hours and talk to you guys. We've been on for an hour, but like, yeah. She's like, enjoy this. This is helpful for you. Like, I can record vocals on Sunday and not have to worry about, why are you doing that? I have the support behind me to really make this work, and that's helpful in a lot of ways. And I know that having a band that's supportive as well helps too. I can attest to that as well. And I'm sure you guys have the support of each other and your families and the people around you who care enough to, it's important, and especially right now that we're in this other, this third wave, this tough phase where, some of our friends are losing their jobs and their businesses, and we are, some of us are reliant on music and reliant on things, and yet, we can't go out and play shows right now, and we can't do the things that, get us hyped all the time. Like, I'll tell you what, I am never happier than a day where I get to clock out at work and put on my skinny jeans and strap my bass over my fucking chest and scream at an audience for 45 minutes. Like, yeah. Those are the fun nights for me. Like, knowing that I'm not getting to bed till like maybe 2 a.m. if my 34-year-old body will let me do it anymore.
And then you got to wake up at 7 a.m. the next day
to go to work.
Like, last night didn't just fucking happen.
No, and I used to work at Starbucks too, so it was like 4:30 in the morning after a show.
Oh man!
And I'd be like hoarse and tired, and they're just like, "What's wrong?" Yeah, I'm just like drinking chai like it's blood.
That's funny. So that's pretty much what Lifeless is about too. Yeah, to just kind of be like short and sweet, since you asked about both of them. Lifeless is basically that, like, from a musician standpoint, you've felt that like stagnicity of, doing your 9 to 5 every day, just being on autopilot, and feeling like your life is kind of in the hands of the system, or like in the hands of like, if this is it, like I'm just going to be working for the rest of my life type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's, it can be looked at from kind of both perspectives of the person who feels that way, and also like just like the world, and just like making it that norm, so it, like, that's where the chorus kind of, the idea of that came. Like, the chorus came before the actual music. We were jamming something in the studio, and I remember that line just came into my head. It almost feels like someone else is living my life. And then we later, kind of pulled that idea and used it for this track. But yeah, I mean, it's about that, like sometimes you forget you get so wrapped up in real life that you forget your passion, you forget about the escape of like writing music, or, you know, being a painter or an artist, or, you know, doing videography, stuff like that, you know. And you can't let yourself get so wrapped up in that to where you kind of just lose that creativity, that imagination. You know, it's very healthy to have something like that. And especially nowadays, you know, with COVID and everything like that, you got to have something that is able to stimulate you. And kudos to your girlfriend for being so, you know, understandable about that, you know, and allowing you to have that outlet and just to kind of feed your soul, you know. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Erik, I'm going to be blatantly honest. I was listening to Lifeless right before this. My girlfriend was sitting over there, and I went, I fucking hate you, Erik, because the breakdown in that song makes my body shake, and I air drum it every fucking time, and I can't play drums.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So tell me, like, the feel of that, like, that breakdown is just, that taking back what's mine part that leads into that really cool, mellow intro into that final chorus. What were you guys feeling with that?
Well, this whole song started from a pre-pro of me, because I'm not a great melodic writer. I'm not a great melodic writer at all. Compared to everyone else in the band, I'm probably one of the weakest melodic writers. But I have enough piano knowledge to kind of lay some basic stuff down. And I was messing with this rhythm initially. Like, if you heard Lifeless before it was Lifeless, it sounds nothing like Lifeless. It sounds nothing like it. But that rhythm definitely carried over. And that was kind of like, the guys were like, oh, that's a cool rhythm. I like that rhythm. And that's always the strongest part of my writing, obviously, because I'm way more rhythmic than I am melodic, right? They usually take my melodic ideas, they make them better, but a lot of times I have some interesting rhythms, and that's kind of where that breakdown came from, was just my pre-pro, my initial idea that I brought to them, and then it turned into Lifeless because of these guys.
Yeah. Carl, that chunky bass line you have on that, man, is there a specific effect you use to get that kind of, that big ballsy sound, I guess?
You're muted.
No.
You're not muted. You're there.
Thanks so much. Yeah, this is our merch girl, by the way, Lauren. Oh, she's hiding. Okay.
Damn.
Not specifically. In fact, I don't think that we've actually, because I've battled with my tone for quite a while through this project, and I now am using the Medusa Dark Glass amp.
I hate you. Okay.
So yeah, it was expensive, but yeah, I'm using that. I use that from like all, like my clean and my distorted tones, but I think that was before. So I honestly think that the tone that he's using for that is a Sans amp based bass tone.
Okay.
But aside from that, I mean, I don't know. I just Nima had that riff, that breakdown riff in the song.
Yeah.
And that to me is like the heaviest part of the song. And just the little slaps that because it's weird. The guitar part that he plays, he plays it kind of like a bass player.
Yeah. Because
it's got the, that's very, very common in a lot of the math rock stuff that comes out, Tosin Abasi, Polyphia kind of esque stuff. It's like hybrid picking, so they're using their thumb to pick the lower notes and their other finger to pick the higher notes and stuff. Yep. So they have a lot of really intricate syncopation in the music. So he had that, just that, the little high octave pops in there. And I was like, boom, let's just do, bass slaps on that. And it sounds great. But yeah, it's really Nima's part for the most part. So,
okay.
But yeah, super heavy. I love that song. That song actually inspired us to go a little bit heavier with our new stuff. So hopefully we're going to have some newer, heavier songs coming out in the future. Because I think that's where we all come from and where we all kind of fused together as a project, was around heavier music. I think we all, like Nima, actually Erik introduced Zach and I to so much amazing technical music. I think it started with Periphery. He introduced us to that, and we're just like, oh god, it just opened up a whole new world of music. So that was a huge changing point. I think that was a very big development because we started as a band that we called Beneath the Monument, and that was basically Zach's brainchild. and then I joined in as a vocalist and miraculously failed. And then we got Nima, and then it was basically Mosaic, and then it was like we just need vocals. We knew we needed that, and Phil solidified that, and it was crazy to think that was the first, probably one of the first people that we originally thought of, like, hey, who can sing for our band? Does anyone know any great vocalists? And Eric's like, I know Phillip Tacarante will do a fantastic job. And like 2 years later, we fucking finally get a hold of him.
Sorry.
And
I know we could have been like doing this shit before COVID.
that's okay.
Yeah.
I like not succeeding.
No joke. The idea I had for Through Bloodshot Eyes, where after our breakdown comes in, it goes into a mellow part, is because of Lifeless. So
Yeah.
that was awesome. I was like, I kind of like how it kind of goes back into that whole, it almost feels like, that whole part just gets me every time. That's why it's the outro. The whole end of the song is the outro to the show. It's where all the credits run and all the stuff that hopefully people stick around and watch. I mean, I don't know.
It's amazing. I think I saw the teaser for that on your Facebook. I kind of creeped on you a bit.
Hey man, do it. That's what it's there for.
From what I saw, it looks fucking amazing.
Yeah, it was a fun video to shoot. Like, I hate singing by myself and like into a camera. I think I look retarded all the time, but I'm pretty sure I was on a few Instagrams, a few TikToks, a few Snapchats, because like people were like, there's a lot of this.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. I don't know what to look up to find any of this shit.
I'll send it to you if it goes viral.
Okay, deal. But that was one of those things, like, and then when we did the full band stuff, I was like, okay, this makes sense. Like, this feels right. But we have a new song. I literally just got the master back today. It's a song called Evil Within. It's a heavier song. I think it's more the direction we might be leaning towards.
Nice.
And it has an undertone of like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, kind of just dealing with fighting those demons inside of you and just finally deciding, fuck it, sometimes it's okay to let them out. That way you can feel better when you're not dealing with that shit. But Ted Jensen is mastering all of our stuff from Sterling Audio. He's done things for Bring Me the Horizon, Breaking Benjamin, Blink-182. And I got the master back today, and I was like, oh my God, this song has so much balls. Like, the low end just comes out so nice in it, and it's awesome. Like, I love when that happens, and like, it just, I think my favorite part besides playing live is recording and like listening to the pieces come together and like getting that next mix. What do you guys enjoy the most about the band process? Besides playing live, everybody likes playing live, I think.
Damn it. Well, now my answer doesn't mean anything. No, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's cliche to say, but yeah, it's the show, it's the fruits of your labor, especially in a business sense, because it all boils down to that one moment. And if you can make it, and some, I'm sure some, our first few shows, we did not take advantage of the opportunity that was there at the show. And it takes a while of being not only a band, but a business to realize where those opportunities are and how you can truly take a hold, or, to take advantage of those opportunities. Not only meeting the people that are at the venue, the management, the staff, talking to the fans, actually asking them questions, getting into it. I mean, that's like that makes you want to do it all over again, meeting the fans and getting to talk to them and hearing what they say. I remember the Issue show. I'm sorry, Phil. He was balling at one point because it was like so many people came up to him, which is like, oh my God, you're amazing. Your voice is amazing. He was just like in awe. Like he had never received so much, which is beyond me. He's never received so much, just praise on like his ability and his talent. And I just, that was beautiful to me to watch him bawl like a bitch. No, but yeah, I think that's amazing. Not only that, and just seeing the music going up online and and seeing the response from people online, because that is, it's sort of surreal when you see it online, because you don't see it in person, right? Like at a show, you see all these numbers, and that almost can seem fake. And I mean, God, in the era of fake news, right? But
oh yeah, amen.
yeah, no, it's so cool to see like numbers jump up and to see people messaging you from completely different states and countries and stuff. So that's my favorite part, is definitely hearing from people that listen to the music that relate to it. There's nothing like that in the world.
Amen. That's crazy. That's really true. Erik, Phil, what about you guys?
I don't know. I mean,
Eric's like, go.
Yeah. He just pushed me. No, I'd have to agree with Carl on, just seeing the response after the fact, and just kind of seeing the result, and, just taking it all in. He's right. Like at that show specifically, you always go into, especially if you're playing with an international act, you always kind of go into those shows kind of thinking like you're just going to be the local band at the end of the night, and nobody's there to see you. They're there to see issues. Like obviously you'll have like your fan base that goes and, to the show to support and everything like that. But just seeing so many new faces come up to you and just kind of look at you like you're on the level of these guys, that have already kind of, did the work and put their nose to the grindstone and get to the level that they're at. And it just kind of shows you that, you have that potential to take it even further if you wanted to. So it was extremely humbling to know that, but to not get to that point where your head is so big that, like, this is it. Like after you experience something like that, you realize like what comes with it. Like you have to just keep working at it and you just have to keep going. And that's something I never want to stop with music, is just continue to be creative and continue to, push yourself. And, like being in this band has definitely challenged me a lot as a vocalist. I wouldn't be the vocalist that I am today without Carl and without Nima and everybody's, criticism and like, just helping me kind of find my own sound. So a lot of that too is like just looking forward, and just kind of seeing what we come up with next. Like Carl was saying, we're kind of going to go into like a little bit of a more heavy direction, but still kind of keep that Mosaic sound. So I'm more excited now than I was before to start writing new music and just to kind of see, what the next level of us is, and just kind of see that evolution, unfold.
Totally.
Definitely. What about you, Erik?
I look globally. I'm a very global person. I like to look ahead. I'm trying to always figure out where are we moving, what's our next move. So for me, my favorite part is to build like something that people could dive into. Like that's my favorite thing. Like I don't know, Michael, how familiar are you with like Northlane?
Northlane, they're dope.
Okay. So yeah. I love like they dropped this really cool like teaser video for one of their albums, and they had like all of these just different visuals of like different feels, different, like I just love being able to have, the ability to dive into a band. Like I want a band to tell a story, and I want it to have feeling behind it, especially visually, audio wise, like everything. So for me, that's my favorite part is just creating a story behind our music and just creating a story behind our band. Like so that when you first find us, like you can look at our shit and be like we have something here that you can dive down. Like I love having bands that you can dive down a rabbit hole and you just keep diving and diving and diving, and I like to try to build that rabbit hole for people to dive down. That's my favorite thing.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. I like that answer. And that kind of ties in with the live performance, because with the live performance, you have this feel of being able to create that global environment. One of the bands I'm really into right now is a band called Hawk. They used to be This or the Apocalypse. So it's Ricky from Ice Nine Kills, the guitar player from Ice Nine Kills. He's the front man of this project. And then it's the original guitar player from This or the Apocalypse. I actually had Burn, their bassist, on the show. I'm trying to get Ricky on for next year after the holidays, which I think will be dope. But they just released an EP called Tolerance is Paradox. And the thing from beginning to end is a fucking masterpiece. Like, it tells a little story. It kind of gives you a feel. And the videos for the songs that they released for it. So they've released 4 of the 6 songs they've released videos for. But they all kind of like just tell the story that. So This Or the Apocalypse was on a label and they got dropped. And Ricky said, fine, if you don't want us, fuck you guys. I'm going to do this by myself. And so the whole record's about how they went DIY without any help and created this masterpiece. And it's fucking amazing from beginning to end. And that album, the Bring Me the Horizon record, and then the new Slaves record have been the 3 albums I've listened to through like all of 2020. Awesome. And that's kind of like, I feel the same way, man. And that's one of the things I think I've really liked about you guys as a whole is like, I always feel like your music tells a story or has something behind it that is bigger than just the music and the emotion behind it and the feel. Cause like, I don't know. I like, and I also love the remixes of certain tracks. I was listening to Hollow a little bit earlier today and yesterday, and like, because you guys are on my regular rotation, don't get it twisted. It's just how it is. But like I enjoy like reimaginings of songs that have a specific feel, and then like hearing what another engineer or what a different type of production, or adding like a somebody who does digital music. We're actually trying to do that with Through Bloodshot Eyes right now. I kind of want to see what someone else can do with what we've created and like what they can produce with it. And create that rabbit hole like you were talking about, Erik, where we can kind of bring a different audience to our other music, or bring an audience to our music that maybe wouldn't have given us a second look, but because we add this different element, or we kind of transitioned to a different style, like maybe that brings a different audience. And one of the things that Carl and Phil both brought up is how you present yourself as a band after you are done. Doesn't matter, like you said, Phil, doesn't matter if you're the local band. People don't know that you're the local act. Sometimes people think you're on the bill. Some of my favorite moments from the Seven Dust tour was like having a parent come up with their 2 kids who are 13, 14 and saying, this is the first band my son and or daughter has seen live. And like, getting to know that they'll forever be like, my first show was seeing Red Tide Rising at the Complex in Salt Lake City. Or, you know, my first show was seeing Mosaic with Polyphia and Issues, and they were the best band of the night. I mean, we had moments like that where people were like buying our CD going, I'm going to listen to this every day. And then still contacting the band years later, like, man, we love this. This still is in my rotation. And like, oh man, it gets to me now just even thinking about it, like that feeling of knowing that. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this, but like Phil specifically as a vocalist, like seeing the audience out there singing the words to your songs, the words that you wrote, and like hearing, like, I mean, even if it's the 5 people who've been to every show, it's still a surreal feeling. Even if it's just Tegan, like, you know, it's fine. You know, it's awesome. Like to have those moments and like be cool with the feeling of just being like, fuck, they know my songs. Like they're down to hear this. It's like, it's that unreal feeling of like, fuck, this is great. You know, like, I don't know. That's the only way I can explain it. It's
always gratifying whenever you're able to resonate with people. Like you said, even if they are people that have like, you know, been to every single show, or the familiar faces in the crowd. There have been a few times where we played shows and there's just random people that, you know, usually in your brain, you're always thinking when you look down and you see somebody like singing along with you, that person has to know somebody that, you know, came to the show that we know, or, you know, that we've met before. And then you find out later on that they were there to see you because they discovered you on YouTube, or they saw you on Facebook, or, you know, whatever the case. So that's always like kind of like a mind fuck. You're like, wow, like our music really does kind of get out there. You know, people are actually listening to it and hearing it. And, genuinely just coming to the shows to kind of, to see us, and to enjoy the music, and that's always very, very nice when you can put something out there that resonates with people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's half the fun. Like, to me, that's half the fun of being a musician. The other half is you get to play music and pretend like you're cool for a little while.
Yeah.
except us, Carl, as bassist, there's no such thing as being cool. You're muted.
Oh shit, that's all I ever do. 10.
Well, see,
career.
what's funny is I've mentioned this before. I'm a bassist and a lead singer. So I'm like the guy who's on like the mid level of the totem pole, because it's always the drummer and then like the lead guitarist and then the vocalist usually. But I'm like a vocal bass player. So I get the guy after, I get the girl after the roadie, and like so.
No, what a dichotomy. No, I mean I know there's like quite a few like bigger bands that have bassists that are front men, but yeah, or front women. I'm sorry, but
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's such a hard void to fill, because you're filling the foundation of the music as a bass player, then you're playing the icing on top as a singer. Yeah, it's tough. I can only imagine
singing a melody and playing the rhythm. What was that, Phil? I'm sorry, man.
So you're the cake and the frosting.
Well, and we get but like Carl, you can attest to this. Bassists get a lot of shit. But people don't really understand we're kind of important. Like, I mean, yes, you can put a bassist in the backtrack and it's fine. But, something about a bass player always feels better when a band has one. Or like, it ties the drums to the guitars to the vocals. And I feel like people give bassists a lot of shit. I don't know where that stigma came from. Do you have any idea where that stigma came from? Does anybody?
Yeah, I think it just comes from I think it comes from your average music listener, because that's a common thing that happens in live performances, that people you don't take notice to the lower frequencies in music in a general sense for your typical listener, for your typical music consumer. They can hear the guitar solo, they can hear the person singing over, because these are like higher frequencies that are just they're more prominent, they come through clearer. But that low end, and even though that's it's much more prominent in genres like rap and stuff. People take recognition to bass more in rap than they do in rock music. It's just kind of a thing. And I think that, people, it gets drowned out, especially with the guitars, especially in rock music, where the bass player is typically playing just a lower octave of what the guitar players are playing, riff for riff at times and in certain groups. So it's very hard to hear that differentiation in sound for, versus the guitar and the bass, especially when it's a distorted bass too. It just blends in all into one sound for your average listener. But I don't know. I guess I take after Victor Wooten, and he mentioned that a great bass player is not recognized. If you're doing your job very well as a bass player, you're not recognized, because you keep the music moving at its foundational level, and that's that's the breaking point as a stringed instrument. It's weird, because most stringed instruments play the sustaining part of the music, not the foundational rhythmic part of the music. But that's what bass does, and especially in rock music too. It keeps the foundational rhythm there, and it adds that oomph to it. But people don't recognize that. So I don't know. I guess that's just kind of where I've seen it. But it's so critical to making the music hit hard. And there's only been a few bands that I've seen in the local sense that play without a bass player. Maybe 2 or 3 bands here and there, and it's night and day. Especially if you have an ear, a relatively, any kind of ear for music. It's you can hear pretty well when there's no bass.
Definitely. One of the things, Erik, a couple of the bands that you've mentioned, bands like Periphery, their bass players kind of stand out because the guitars are so on the other end of playing aggressive melodic parts that the bass and drums stand out in those kind of bands. One band also that has that issue is Issues. Their bassist plays some crazy structures throughout their songs. I've tried to learn some of those, and his technique is in a different atmosphere, like a different planet. What about those kind of bands kind of brings into this project a little bit, would you say, like a Periphery or a Polyphia?
For me, music, I was drawn to heavy music for the musicianship. It wasn't the anger, it wasn't the angst. I mean, I feel that at times. Everyone feels that at times. But it was the musicianship. It was the pure, straight up, just, these guys are the best musicians on the planet. I mean, if you juxtapose this with like jazz, I think you could say progressive metal and jazz musicians are probably at the highest peak of their instrument. They dedicate their life to it, and there's something beautiful to me about that. Like, I love seeing people like Victor Wooten, who's well into his 60s now, and he's been playing bass guitar for 60 years almost. You know, like,
Yeah.
that's so cool to me. And I love that, and I crave that in music, and you can hear it. It's very easy to hear when you listen to a band. If you listen to their music, you can tell, are these guys, do they love their craft? Is this everything to them, or are they doing it to get the chicks and, you know, party, right? It's very, very apparent to me, at least. And I was drawn to this style because of that, because of guys like Misha Mansour and Tosin Abasi and Matt Halpern and Matt Garska and all of these incredible musicians that are just monsters. That's why I love this genre.
Oh, definitely. Have any of you guys seen Victor Wooten live?
No.
I wish.
I
would
saw him
love
at the
to.
Aggie, and he is incredible live. Like, so fun to watch. It was with Soul Circus, his solo project, with his brother Reggie. And he does this thing. You've probably seen videos of him. He'll call out to the crowd, like, give me a number.
Yeah.
And he'll play the number of notes in a slap pattern and like play it, and it's ridiculous. But he's incredible. Like that he's on a different level of bass playing. Like
It's a spiritual level. It's
yeah.
It's inside of him, and that's what's so cool about music, is you can get that deep with it, and I love that.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is I used to be just like one genre, and I was always like, it was like, it had to be new metal, it had to be hardcore, and that was it. But as I got older, and when I was younger, I listened to like a lot of R&B. I grew up in the 90s R&B phase, so Boyz II Men has become my favorite band of all time. You can judge me all you want, I don't care. Motown Philly is a great song. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, Motown Philly back again.
Philly's back again. Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I feel that now that we all have that broadness of sound, and I kind of blame Johnny Craig for this, that the R&B flow has kind of come into the metal genre, especially progressive metal. And that's where like bands like Dance Gavin Dance and Tillian Pearson, and even Slaves, who are kind of more on the alternative side than the progressive side, when they were with Johnny Craig, and even like Emarosa early on, like those bands, I think, kind of have set the stage for what that genre is kind of slid into now. And then you have Periphery, who is just like, they were the powerhouse of that genre. And then you have so many other bands that have kind of like splintered off of that and created their own sounds. And I think that's where metal is heading. If you look at Europe right now, there's a lot of bands who kind of fit where you guys are now and are starting to get a little bit more popular. Have you heard of Dreambound, the YouTube channel?
Oh, that's Eric's wet dream right there.
So Erik, have you heard of Noia?
I don't want to be on that channel.
It's
From
tough.
Sweden?
It's tough to keep up with all of those bands. They are always posting, and that's why I love them. They're always posting new music. It's a great place to find new music. I might have heard of them. What's their sound like?
So it's more, they are kind of like, can't think of kind of like Architects, but not as heavy.
Okay.
So I actually interviewed them on Tuesday.
That's awesome.
They're in Sweden, so that was an 11 a.m. interview, which was fun.
That's great.
I had to take my lunch break. But yeah, so them, and then like bands like Eminence and some of these other bands that I kind of like wrap you guys in the same blanket. Like I feel like they're starting to make this that genre is starting to kind of make that jump to where more people are going to start listening to it on a regular basis and kind of make that push. And I think that's another thing COVID has done too, is it's forced people to start exploring smaller projects, because unlike Bring Me the Horizon, not a lot of bands have put out a lot of material right now. And some of us smaller projects have started to really push that and get more material out, or are promoting our material a little bit better. And I think that's what we as the smaller projects have to kind of take advantage of. One of the things that I also wanted to talk about, and we'll wrap up here shortly. Sorry. Thank you guys for taking all this time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. You're the best.
Of course. Thank you guys. I wouldn't have a platform if it wasn't to have awesome people to talk to. I was talking to another musician a while back and mentioned that it's kind of difficult for Denver bands to make it because there aren't a whole lot of other markets outside of Denver that are close. So like if you're in Boston or like a suburb of Boston, you can get to New York City, you can get to Philly, you can get to DC, you can get to Boston in under 8 hours-ish. And those are bigger markets. In Dallas, you can get to pretty much all over Texas. If you're in Arizona, you can get to LA, San Diego in a reasonable amount of time. But we don't really have any major markets within 8 hours of the Denver metro area. How do you guys think that sort of hinders developing that regional build and then growing into a national build? And what do you think we can do as a scene to kind of break that mold and get the Denver scene out there?
I think Erik will have the same answer as me, so I'll let Erik answer.
So for me, business is huge. I love business. I love the music business, and I think I love it. Drumming, music business, and videography are all three my biggest interests when it comes to a band. So this is a great question, Mike. This is a really good question. So here's the thing. I think that in the world that we're living in today, the digital world has shrunken the world that we live in to microscopic scale versus before, right? Before, if you weren't physically showing up to every city, people didn't give a shit about you. If you weren't in front of them, right in front of them, at their venue, it was hard to build this connection. So while I understand what he's saying, I also feel, and we've had many experiences firsthand, we've had friends that experience this, that if you go out on tour, and that's awesome that you guys have the ability to tour with Seven Dust and bands like that, but if we were to go out on tour, like us as a collective band right now, like, A, we would probably not have enough draw for it to be worth the financial cost. B, it would be the time we spend, the money that we spend would be better off putting towards music videos, mixes, masters, marketing, everything like that, until there is an audience there. And then when there is an audience there, then you should be able to sustain yourself. You should be able to justify that 20-hour drive to California, because you know that you're going to sell out a venue of 20,000, not even 20, like 2,000 people or 1,000 people, and that's going to more than cover your gas, more than cover your rent, more than cover everything, and it makes sense, right? The numbers have to add up. So I think that before you point the fingers and say Denver is an isolated market, which it is, I understand that point, I totally agree with it, we have to reverse engineer this whole situation in the way that we have to say, before we start getting out and reaching out to all these other places, can you viably tour? You know, and that's a hard milestone. It's really tough unless you get in a great situation like you guys did, which is awesome. I'm so happy for you had a situation like that. That's great. But like for us, like a solo Mosaic tour, it's not on the cards right now for us, because we know that we're not big enough right now to go to Arizona and sell out a 500-person venue. When we are, all about it, you know?
Right, and that's the biggest part. It's a sunken cost fallacy if you think about it. You have to understand, if you're going to be able to make this work, you have to try and make this work. But you can't put yourself out of house and home and assume that you're going to make it because you are willing to drive to New York City. or you're willing to drive to Los Angeles to do a pay to play where you're not even getting paid. You can't put yourself in a situation where you're essentially going to be handicapped. We were super lucky because we had help from like the manager of the band at when I was in it had the funds to be able to help us sustain those opportunities. So it was an opportunity of convenience for us because we were able to take time off of work to do these tours and make it work. When it became no longer viable for me to be able to do that, that's when I had to walk away. As much as I wanted to go on that holiday tour from Thanksgiving to Christmas, I was a manager at a Starbucks. Thanksgiving to Christmas is where I make all of my money, for an entire year. So you essentially need to know where you're taking those risks and if you can take those risks. Erik, that's a great point. And I think now, especially with the internet and the expansion of, as much as I don't use Spotify, everybody else does. And, YouTube and other media platforms, having those opportunities to really push your music out that way is a great way to get those audiences. And then if you can find a way to like maybe make a connection with a band in Los Angeles who has a draw and then go, hey, we happen to be out there. Like we're not going to, drive 20 hours and spend $200 on gas to not at least understand where we're going. Would you be able to set up a show for us where we can at least, potentially make some money? That's those risks you can take sometimes, but you can't do that every weekend. You can't do that an entire summer if you're really expecting to do anything. Now, touring is important, yes, but it's not the end all be all. And, there's some bands in Denver who've done pretty good jobs of finding regional and tours outside of the region, but like they're playing the Herman's Hideaways of all these cities and playing to 10, 15, 20 people, and that's a tough situation because you can't always handle that way. Yep. It's not gonna, at some point it's no longer going to be viable, no matter how much time and effort you put into it. They talk about, you have to be willing to sacrifice, but sometimes sacrificing too much can cost you everything. And you have to be safe on that front.
The singer from Bad Wolves, he was like homeless for a while. The dude from Thy Art Is Murder, he left the band because they were, they're hitting that point in their career where like, yeah, they were a huge, act and they're well known in that scene. But even the singer at that point was like, I can't afford to do this anymore. He basically sacrificed his job, his well-being, bills, everything. You still have a personal life outside of music, and you have to make sure that, nobody's going to just blow up overnight and start making millions. It doesn't really work like that anymore like it used to, because there's a new band every day putting, like an ad on Facebook, and they have the hot sound, and like everybody is trying to grind and do the same thing, that it almost kind of feels like a race at some point. But there's so many bands that are undiscovered that are all, reputable, and they're awesome. But, the way that the music industry is nowadays, it's hard to make it like a lucrative thing and to just say, this is my career, this is what I do for a living. You still have to have that sustainability in your own life to be able to continue to do what you love, which sucks. Especially being in a band, you have to pay for all these things and you have to sacrifice so much and just be able to do that to do what you love.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting because like even with this podcast, I can tell you right now, I pay for everything. I pay for the subscription to put this on Apple Music and Google Play and Spotify. I pay for the editing equipment that I use to make the videos that go on YouTube. I have to get 1,000 subscribers and have 4,000 hours of playtime to even monetize any of it. Yeah. And I've been doing this since August, and I'm at 44 subscribers as of the recording of this. But, and sometimes it only takes like that one guest or that one thing to kind of give you that push. And at the end of the day, like if I was doing this because I wanted to make money, I would have sold my soul and tried to find advertisers right out the gate. But I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how much Blue Apron wants to give me money to promote their product, or Manscaped wants to give me to put their product on. I do use it. It's great. But like, I'm not going to sit here and like try to find all that advertising revenue when I don't have an audience, and the majority of their audience base is like, you have to have 100,000 subscribers on Instagram, or 100,000 followers on Instagram. You have to have 10,000 on Facebook, and you have to have so many on Twitter and YouTube. I'm doing this because it's fucking fun, and I'm willing to spend a little money to make it happen. With the band, I'm willing to invest in the product. I don't think people really understand how expensive it is to run a band. Like, you guys are fortunate enough to have Nima engineer everything and work together, but you guys send out for mastering, you guys send out for some mixing, and that costs money. To buy new strings, it costs money. To buy drum heads, it costs money. To buy a microphone, to take care of your voice, it costs money. Like, there is no, it's none of this shit is free, people. So one of the big arguments I've always had is like, people who would rather, and this is me being the whiny local band guy, there are people who would rather spend $70 on alcohol a weekend than pay $10 to come see you and your friends play. And that's because they went to one show one time at a battle of the bands, and the opening band sucked ass because they don't practice and they don't give a shit about their sound. They just think that they're going to make it because they have instruments. There's videos of like guys playing Rage and Avenged Sevenfold, and they're memes now because they're fucking awful.
So bad, yeah.
Oh God, have you seen Catatonic Youth on Facebook?
Dude, that's the best.
Gold. So much gold.
Yeah, and I'm sure I have a video on there somewhere from my early days. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, you put the time, the money, and the effort in, you're going to do something with it. That's how it works. And like, yes, it's frustrating, and especially in this industry, because it seems like nowadays it's not what you know or how good you are, it's who you know and how you can market yourself. And I think, Erik, that's where your ideas, like creating that rabbit hole and creating something that can be invested in by somebody, is vitally important to make it to that next level.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true.
So.
I mean, at the end of the day, the only reason why we all do what we do is because we love it. Yeah. It's the love for making music. It's the passion of creating something that is yours, and having that ability to do so. So I think if you can't do it for money, if you can't do it for anything else, just do it because you love doing it. It's a hobby until you start making money, and then it becomes a job.
Yeah.
But
yes, Carl's dog's stealing the show now.
The pooch.
No, I'm sorry.
Who's that?
Say hi. He says, "Hi, I like Mosaic."
Right.
Was he choking?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think I would like to say that I think we're we're lucky as a group to have Nima and just everyone in the group. And that was one thing that we really capitalized on when we first started becoming like a solid unit as a band, was the fact that we had to all pursue some other, level of expertise in the group to help the business pursue as a business, to keep things growing. Because in reality, even if everyone's, great at their instrument, there's so many other things that need to happen in the business scheme of things to make the business aspect of the band work out, the brand, if you will. To make the brand work out, you have to have marketing in place. You have to have visual media in place. You have to have videos and, everything else that comes with that. And we all took it upon ourselves to kind of take one of those avenues. Phil is like the brand representative. He like creates the brand and then broadcasts the brand. I help with business things, which basically says I do nothing. Erik is the videographer of the band. He does all the video work for us. Nima is the audio engineer, does all the recording, mixing, master. I mean, not always all the mastering, but has in the past, and is still, in my opinion, one of the best audio engineers in the state.
Nobody can convince him that
he's like a merch designer. He like helps design all of our merch. And not only that, but he's been the core to our songwriting from the start. You know, I mean, Zach wrote the whole EP essentially himself, you know, to quite a bit of that standard. You know, we all added our flavor into our instruments, but, you know, he wrote so many of those songs from that EP that really started Mosaic in itself. Yeah, you know, so that was one thing that was very important to us. And I think we all, and, you know, I think a lot of us came from that era where we grew up with our, you know, the artists that we loved and looked after. They all grew up in that world of record deals where it was like, you get the record deal and it was like, well, but the bass player, he's not so good, so get rid of him, we'll get someone else in there, you know. So that was like, you know, like people could just be expensed like that. And so it was important to us that, like, hey, we all have to have a way that we're involved in the business that adds to our brand, aside from just playing the instrument and playing live. We need to be more invested in this business in general to make, you know, not only to carve out our own place and position in the brand and business, but to keep it growing and to make sure that it is always growing.
Definitely. And I think that's the important part. Like, Sean and I both share the social media roles for the band. So I mean, like, I'll talk more than he will, but, you know, we'll post content as often as we can. I got us connected with Adam Ramey of Dropout Kings.
Yeah, hopefully we can get back to normal soon, man.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be great. When that happens, beers on
Hang
me.
out. We're gonna hang out.
Hang out. 100%. Yeah. I'll get you a couple Trulies there, Carl. I saw that. Don't think I didn't see that.
All right, guys. I got to dip.
Yeah, we gotta go. I gotta go too. But thanks a lot, gentlemen. Peace.
Later, guys.
Take care. Thank you so much, Mike. You're the
Definitely.
fucking best.
Thank you, Michael.
See you guys.
You're awesome, man.
Thank you very much.
Later.
Bye, guys.
Later.
Adios.
Bye.
It almost feels like someone else is living my life. 'Cause it almost feels like someone else is living